Namaste and welcome. It's Rishi here from meditatewithrishi.com, and today we are diving into the 5 pranas, the Panch Prana. Okay, so let's get to it. Now, before we start, I just want to say that to understand this video, it's really important that you have watched the video on what is prana. Okay, that forms the basis for this video. So I will link it in the description box below. Okay, so what we're going to do now is dive into the 5 different kinds of prana that run our entire being. Okay, so let's start with a story. This is this is a beautiful story about prana. Okay, so it's said that once within the body, the different elements and powers in the Indian tradition, they have been symbolized as deities or gods, right? So the different elements being, air, water, wind, earth, fire, mind, speech, essentially, all these different elements and powers, they were having an argument saying that, it is I who runs this body, right? It is I who sustains this body. And Prana was quietly listening to them argue. And finally, she just comes to them and says, "Do not be deluded. It is I, having been divided into 5 parts, that sustains this body." And they didn't believe her. They were like, yeah, whatever. So what she did, without needing to say much more, is she started withdrawing from the body. Okay? And when she started withdrawing from the body, when prana started withdrawing, the other deities found themselves also withdrawing without any control whatsoever. And then prana decided to come back into the body, and the deities found themselves coming back into the body as well. And that's when they realized that it is prana that is above them and controls their very existence and function in the body. And then they just bow down to her. So prana said that it is I that, having been divided into 5 parts, that sustains this body. Okay, so today we are going to look at what are those 5 parts, right? So when prana is absorbed into the system, it divides itself into 5 parts, and these are responsible for the different functions in our system. Okay, so we're going to go through them step by step. I'm going to make this very simple so that it's easy to understand, and that's it. Let's get to it. Okay, so the 5 types of prana. The first type of prana is prana itself. Okay, now you can see I've got not the best, but a drawing of the human body here, divided into 5 parts. Okay, and these 5 parts, I'm going to take you through them step by step, are the different pranas essentially. Okay, so the first prana is prana itself. Okay, and this is located between the diaphragm and the neck. So it's this section over here. The energy here is prana. Okay, prana vayu, and this is responsible essentially for absorption. Okay, so it's responsible for absorption of prana from external sources. Physically, it is responsible for all absorption essentially. Okay, so our heart, our lungs, our breathing, these are the organs that it controls. But mentally as well, it is responsible for the absorption of new impressions, new ideas, positive impressions. Okay, so this is the first prana, which is prana itself. It's called prana. Okay, the second one is called apana. Now, prana is an upward moving energy. Okay, this is important to remember that. Prana is an upward moving energy, and apana is a downward moving energy. Okay, so apana is situated here, which is between the navel and the perineum essentially. So this over here, these downward facing lines represent apana. Okay, now apana, opposite to prana, is responsible for excretion and elimination, right? So prana is absorption, apana is elimination essentially. So within the body, our bladder, our kidneys, this is what it is responsible for the function of. But also at a mental level, it is responsible for the elimination of negative thoughts, elimination of all that mental clutter that we don't need, right? So anything to do with elimination, childbirth, right? That is done by the energy of apana, essentially. So prana is absorption and apana is elimination. Prana is situated here and apana is situated here, essentially, okay, at the bottom. So that's the first two, prana and apana. Now the third one is samana, samana vayu, okay? So samana is situated here in the middle, between the navel and the diaphragm. So these dots that you see here, that is samana, essentially. Now, prana is absorption, apana is elimination, and samana essentially is balancing or processing, essentially. So its job is to balance the prana and apana energies, and its job is processing, essentially. So processing means what? Digestion, right? So anything that you absorb before eliminating, there needs to be digestion that takes place, right? So this is obviously, you know, where digestion takes place. So it's responsible for everything to do with digestion, but not just at a physical level, at a mental level as well, right? So you absorb thoughts, you absorb experiences, and then you eliminate what you don't need. So an example of this is, let's say you have an experience where you have a car accident, okay? Negative experience. Now, that is, you've absorbed that experience into your mind, okay? Now, what do you want to do essentially is you don't want to have that negative memory. What you want to do is you want to retain the lesson, right? So samana is what will process that information and retain what is the lesson from this. So next time I'm in a similar situation, I should not make the same mistake. So at both a physical and mental level, samana is responsible for the digestion or the processing of what is absorbed before it's eliminated, essentially. Okay, hope that makes sense. Now, the fourth one, so we've done prana, which is here, apana, which is here, right? Absorption, elimination, and then digestion, okay? So the fourth prana is udana. And udana is situated everywhere where the first three are not. So what is remaining? Our head, throat, right? Head and neck, arms and legs, essentially. So udana is here, everywhere you can see in green. The arms, the legs, the head, and the neck. And what it is responsible for is your sensory organs and your organs of action, essentially. So your sensory organs, right? Your eyes for seeing, your ears for hearing, your nose for smelling, your tongue for tasting, and your skin for the sense of touch, okay? These all work with, powered by udana, essentially. Then your organs of action, right? So this is everything that you use to action something. Your speech, your hands, your legs, etc. Okay? So this is all powered by udana. Now it is an upward moving energy, okay? So it is an upward moving energy, and at a mental level, it is also responsible for work, essentially, right? And what is the mental work that we are concerned with? Higher thinking, right? A lot of power here for higher thinking, perceiving higher states of consciousness, right? Perceiving and receiving wisdom, essentially, right? Through the yogic practices, through meditation. So this is the function of udana, all right? And the last one, so we've covered everything now, right? So we've covered prana is absorption, apana is elimination, samana is the processing, and then udana is the working of the body through the different organs that we have, right? So that's pretty much everything done. Now the last one, the fifth one, is Vyana. And Vyana essentially pervades the whole body. So everywhere. It is everywhere, essentially, okay? Vyana is responsible for, it causes the other pranas to function. So it is kind of powering the other four pranas, okay? And Vyana acts as a reserve energy. So for example, let's say you're playing a sport and you are exhausted, right? You're completely exhausted. And after some time, there is this new wind of energy that comes, this extra energy that comes. So this is Vyana in action, okay? So this essentially, when Vyana is strong in the body, when it is balanced, it means that there will be no laziness, there will be no physical laziness, there will be no mental laziness. You are willing to work efficiently, smart, on a physical level and a mental level as well, essentially. So this is Vyana in a nutshell, okay? Now, this is a brief understanding of the 5 pranas. And the reason this is important is it's really to understand that, in the video of what is prana, we said that prana is the universal life force, for anything to happen in this world. Anything, any movement to happen, right? From the blink of an eye to the rotation of planets, it is all powered by prana, right? So this is a deeper look into what does that mean, right? So now you can see that our physical body, right? Our internal organs, our sense organs, all these things are working because there is an underlying energy that is fueling them, that is powering them. And this is prana, essentially, okay? So the whole point of the pranayama, essentially, right? This will give you a good understanding. So first of all, in the modern world, because of stress, because of poor lifestyle, poor diet, right? Pollution out there, these pranas in us are exhausted. They are not working at an optimal level, not working at a balanced level. So doing practices, yogic practices, pranayama, they revitalize these energies. This is why pranayama is so, promoted today, just for physical health, But remember that these practices, the ancient yogis did not design them for, for better physical health. They were already in mint health condition. They designed them for essentially realizing our true nature, okay? So one of the most important goals in yogic practice is this, okay? It is basically reversing, it is merging prana and apana. So you can see prana is here, okay? And apana is over here, okay? Now prana is an upward moving energy, okay? So this is moving upward and apana is a downward moving energy. So what we want to do through yogic practice is to reverse this. So yogic practice will make prana come downward and apana come upward and meet here at Samana, okay? We want these two energies to meet here at Samana, okay? So when prana and apana meet at Samana, when they meet at Samana, there is this friction, okay? And this creates a fire, essentially. It is called Yogagni. And this arises, it's called the fire of yoga, okay? And when this happens, this is when the Kundalini awakens and it begins, to move upward, right? Provided everything else is in order. So this is one of the main goals of yoga, okay? So in the previous video on the koshas, we spoke about how our job is to help the consciousness penetrate the different layers from the most physical to the most subtle, to reach the innermost layer and essentially merge with what is within us, right? Our self. So that is one kind of way that you can look at it in terms of what is happening in yogic practice. And this is something else, which is the more you practice, right? In a correct way, of course, then you are reversing prana and apana, making them meet at Samana and essentially give rise to the Kundalini, okay? So I just wanted to touch upon that briefly. This is obviously, it requires, knowing how to do the practices, etc., etc. So I will be running live courses on this. So just keep an eye on the website, meditatewithrishi.com for future upcoming courses. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you very much. Namaste.